When you look at Naomi's life here and the things that occur, what do you see as her main issues? What do you see that Naomi is struggling with here?
She thinks that God's done all this to her.
Okay? She's thinking that, God has done all of this, and, she went away full, she's coming back empty. I had all of this and now it's gone. The Lord gives, the Lord taketh away, right? And, how does she feel about that? Terrible. Where's her hope? There is no hope. It's gone. Go ahead.
Do you suppose that Oprah, or whatever her name was, in a sense, she's kind of doing the same that Naomi is doing. She went back to her people.
Right.
Maybe feeling that same kind of, woe is me.
Right. Yep. Yeah, woe is me. This is what I had, and now I don't have anything. All of a sudden I had all these blessings, and now they're gone. Have there been things in our lives that, all of a sudden we've had these things in our lives, maybe people, it could be anything, and then all of a sudden they're taken away, and we wonder, why? Why is this happening? What have I done? We always look at our hearts and say, what have I done to deserve this? Haven't I done this? Haven't I been good? Haven't I done this? Haven't I been reading my Bible? Don't I go to church? Why are bad things happening to me? I'm a good person. Why are all these bad things happening to me? And that's a struggle that we all face, don't we? But the problem is, we look at our lives in these snapshots of events that occur, don't we? But how many times have you said that? And you go back now at those times when you were so distraught, so without hope. Where are you now? Has hope returned? Has God done something else in your life to restore what was taken away? And you see, oftentimes that's the problem. We look at where we are right now and we throw a pity party for me right now. We're having a me party. Okay? You knew it was coming, right? It's all about me right now. And we want to sit in the ashes of our life, and we want people to come say, oh, poor Glenn. Oh, poor Phyllis. Oh, poor Sean. Oh, poor Sarah. And we would just want to have a pity party, don't we? Well, let's turn to the back of the book in Ruth chapter 4, 13 through 17. So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. And when he went into her, the Lord gave her conception, and she bore a son. Okay, so let me just fill in the gap here. There was a lot that happened in the middle. Okay, actually Boaz was akin to Naomi, and as akin to Naomi, he had a right under Jewish law to take Ruth as his wife. Now there was another gentleman who stood in the way, and he just said, listen, he was the next in line, and basically he says, you know what, I don't want her, Boaz, you can have her. And we know that Naomi kind of put Ruth in some certain situations in the fields so that she would meet Boaz. And ultimately here they came into that relationship, they got married, and now we see that she is conceived and bore a son. In verse 14 he says, Then when the women said to Naomi, Blessed be the Lord, who has not left you this day without a close relative, that he may be famous in Israel, and that he may be to you a restorer of life and a nourisher of your old age. For your daughter-in-law, who loves you, who is better than 7 sons, has borne him. And Naomi took the child and laid him on her bosom and became a nurse to him. And also the neighbor women gave him a name, saying, There is a son born to Naomi. And they called his name Obed. He is the father of Jesse, the father of David. So what you see here is an opportunity where God ends up blessing Naomi so much towards the end of her her life, when she's gotten older, she's got a daughter-in-law, has a grandson now through that, and that grandson is the opportunity that is in the lineage of David, who is also in the lineage of Jesus. So you can really see how God, through these events, blessed Naomi through a difficult time in their life. Where was her hope? Her hope is here. Her hope has been restored now, because we see the fact that once her life was distraught, once these events had happened, once she had lost hope, but all of a sudden hope was on the horizon. Hope when she saw Boaz on the field, and when she saw Ruth gleaning there, and Boaz kind of paying attention to her, and all of a sudden he tells the guys in the field, leave a little extra, folks. Don't pick it all up. Leave some extra for Ruth and for Naomi. And as we see the blessings of God, one by one, coming back to Naomi, one by one, filling in the pieces, one by one, blessing her, you can really see at the end of her life, or at this point in her life, where she was really blessed to the point where she has an heir of Christ. How awesome is that?
You wonder if she even had the insight that that's really where the blessings go.
Yeah. Yep. Who knows? I don't know how long she lived after this, but wouldn't it be great to see the lineage and the blessing of God? Because we know the blessing of God was on the house of Jesse. We know the blessing of God was on the house of David. She may have seen some of that stuff early on. She may have seen David as one of her great-great-grandchildren. How awesome would that be? So, it's really important to see and to have hope and to maintain hope, because we can see the rest of the story here. Phil?
It seems to me that this whole thing is saying hope comes from Father God.
Amen.
Can't get out in this world. All these people that are dying, committed suicide, everything's black, there's no place to go, there's no hope for them, blah, blah, blah.
It's because they don't know hope,
Well,
Phil.
it's not going to help.
Right.
This is what's going to help them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole idea here is the world doesn't know hope. When somebody gets to that point of desperation, their hope is gone. They don't see any light. All they see is darkness. Everywhere they turn, all they see is darkness. They don't see the blessings of God. And yeah, there are times in our lives where it seems like the world is caving in on us. But that's when we look for the little things. When does God speak? He speaks in that still small voice. In the midst of the torrential winds and hurricanes and the violence around, God speaks in little small voices, and He lists these things for us. And when we begin to see the blessings, when we begin to look for them, rather than to just throw ourselves a pity party, that's when we see God really beginning to bless. Amen. And we begin to find a little hope. And we add to that hope a little more hope. And we add to that hope a little more hope. Amen. And next thing you know, we're blessed.
And isn't that when, instead of focusing on the misery that's just that our lives can be in, now we're focusing on the positive things, and we're looking for God's blessing. We're looking for that little leap of hope.
Amen.
That we have in our lives.
Amen.
That's all around us that typically we really don't see.
Right.
And then joy comes in the morning.
Right.
And joy comes in the morning.
Though sorrow may last for a night, joy comes in the morning. Sometimes we just have to persevere. We have to wait. Remember the root here? We have to wait a little bit longer. That's what hope literally means, to wait on the Lord, and then watch and see what God does. And always, what I've seen according to the scriptures, it seems like when we wait on God, the end is much better than the beginning. We've settled here, but God has much more of a blessing when we hope in Him, and the end result comes through.
There's so much in this. I love the story of Ruth.
Amen.
My favorite story in the whole Bible. But there's so much in Ruth. Naomi was a strong woman in the beginning. She
Yes.
had to be a strong woman.
Yes.
To navigate through a non-Christian land.
Right.
They didn't know God. They did all these sacrifices and stuff here. Two daughters and now they do that. To everybody getting killed or died.
Right.
And she was left as the head of the family.
Right.
Keeping everything together. And she goes back, and it took a strong backbone for her to leave and go back. I mean, she probably had to swallow her pride a little,
Yes.
you know, and she gets back there and all the women are there to hold her up.
Right.
You know, and she may be having her little knee party, but all the women are there holding her up.
Amen.
And then when she has this grandson, she's able to nurse this grandson, you know, after,
Right.
you know, I mean, when the well's dry, the well's dry.
Amen.
You know?
Well, one dry.
Well, well's dry.
Amen.
And then
What a blessing.
God kind of strengthens her again through that. So
Amen.
there's just, she had to be a strong woman, you know, through all of this.
Yes.
You know, I think everything I think it's a good thing, like things happen to you, things happen to you for a reason.
There's a time and a purpose for everything under heaven. God has a time and a purpose for everything. There's a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to cast away, a time to gather. You know, you know the book of Ecclesiastes, but there's a timing that God has for everything. And sometimes we just have to, what? Wait. Amen. Let's look at another guy in the Old Testament, one you'll probably recognize, that kind of lost hope along the way. This guy is Job. Let's look at Job 1. Let's pick it up about verse 13 through 22. We know that in the beginning of this, Job went into worship. We also know that God was kind of watching his worship, and Satan shows up, and they have this discourse between God and Satan. You know, the only reason why Job worships you is because you bless him. If you take it away, then he'll curse you to your face. And God says, I don't think so. You know, Job says, okay, let's put him to the test. So God ends up saying, listen, you can do anything you want to Job, but you can't take his life. Okay? Okay? That's kind of where we pick up right here. It says, now there was a day when his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And a messenger came to Job and said, the oxen were plowing and the donkeys feeding beside them, and the Sabeans raided them and took them away. Indeed, they have killed the servants with the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you. So here they are going around. First of all, Job loses what? Loses all his oxen and his donkeys, okay? And even his servants. Only one was left to come back and tell him the bad news. And while he was still speaking, okay, while he was getting this information, another came and said, the fire of God fell from heaven and burned up the sheep and the servants and consumed them, and I have alone have escaped to tell you. So here again, same day, even while they were speaking, he gets this news that his sheep are burned up.